is the North End. This is the North End.
What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the North End. My name's Aizaz, and I will be bringing you the good, the bad, and the ugly from Bournemouth 1, Liverpool 0. It's going to be hard to record this video, but I'm always up for recording this content for the North End crew, so here we go. Before I jump into it, though, you know what I'm going to say. Please hit that subscribe button because it's going to help us a lot as the season heats up. We want to bring more fresh content to you, and that really helps us. So jumping out into the good, and unfortunately, the thing I'm going to say is good is something that is only present from the omission from recent games. And what I mean by that is the good thing that the Liverpool runner form has been built on from attacking sense is the right-hand side. And really it was the combination of Trent Alexander-Arnold, Jordan Henderson, and Mohamed Salah. And that wasn't present today. And I think if you look back at the last 6 or 7 games, minus the second half against Real Madrid, Liverpool have been quite good going forward. Of course, we haven't conceded many goals other than the Real Madrid game in that time. It was 5 clean sheets on the bounce, 500 minutes of Premier League football without a goal conceded. But a lot of the good work of this form was coming from the attack, and particularly from the right-hand side. And today that just wasn't there. Now, the question I have is, did we really need to change anything from last weekend? We've still got 4.5 days until the Real Madrid game, and then no Liverpool games until April, although, of course, many of these players will be going on international duty. But the fact is, I think that was the strongest part of our attacking play. I talked about creativity before on these videos. I will touch on that again later on. Obviously, that's not going to be from the good side today. But one thing I do have to say is that Liverpool are a much better team when that 3 play and they connect together. Now, last weekend against Man United, Harvey Elliott actually played on the right-hand side, but he had a lot of the same traits from a Jordan Henderson performance, because I think that the level of opposition was higher. So he had to play a different game to today. Today, it felt like Harvey Elliott was considered more of a creative outlet, and it just didn't work, because the truth is, on that side, Trent Alexander-Arnold is the creative outlet and Mo Salah is the danger man, and really Jordan Henderson brings a lot of the balance in there. You know, beyond that, I don't really want to talk too much about the good, because clearly this is a bitterly disappointing performance for Liverpool fans. And yet the performance was not quite as bad as some of the games that we've had similar results in. I don't want to highlight that. I don't want to talk about the good, and I don't want to speak with red tinted glasses. It's not good enough. Liverpool have to do better. It's a results business. It's the business end of the season. So not good enough. We need to be better. So beyond the fact that there was some stuff that has been good recently missing from the game, I just want to move on to the bad. So moving on to the bad, we were right back at it again. Now, I've talked about 2 main issues for Liverpool this season. 3 main issues, sorry, and 2 of them are going to be part of the bad, and then the other one is going to be the foundation for my review on the ugly side. But on the bad side, creativity and being clinical again and again and again. And I actually spoke about this in the good last week, where I said against Man United, we were both creative and clinical. Now, once again, against what is considered lower level opposition, and I don't mean any disrespect to Bournemouth, because I'm just talking about the table, we can't analyze this game from a bad or an ugly perspective without talking about a lack of creativity and a lack of being clinical. This time, though, I am going to focus more about being clinical versus not being creative, because most of the time I'm talking about how uncreative we've been and whether we've won or not. Today, I have to look at this from a problem of us not taking our chances. In the first half, Liverpool had 2 clear headers from Virgil van Dijk. One of them, he didn't really make the right connection, and he gave a Bournemouth defender the chance to head it off the line. You know, the textbook way to head that is down. And I know it's a bit rich, me telling Virgil van Dijk how to head textbook headers in the opposition box. But the fact is, he kind of made a defensive header towards the goal, and Bournemouth were able to just clear it off. That's not the worst one, though. Later in the half, and he even turned around and was asking for a penalty because somebody from the Bournemouth defense actually held his arm. That's a golden opportunity for someone of Virgil van Dijk's stature. And him in front of goal this season has not been very good. And then, of course, there was a penalty miss from Mohamed Salah that anytime you have a penalty that's off target like that, it's a very bad penalty. There are moments where you take a good penalty and the goalkeeper saves it, so it's not a good penalty. Then there's other times where you take the perfect penalty and yet the goalkeeper guesses the right way and makes a miraculous save. This was neither one of those because it wasn't on target. Poor penalty. And these are the inches or the margins that Liverpool have even lost the league before, literally 6 inches here, 6 inches there. And yet here we are making this top four slog harder than it needs to be by missing really, really easy chances. And it's bad today. I don't remember Darwin Núñez having a major chance. He's been a player on form. Same thing with Cody Gakpo. We couldn't really get him a good chance. Diego Jota, very much struggling as well. I would have preferred, obviously, in hindsight, him just scoring the goal that ended up being a penalty. And we are going to make this really difficult for ourselves if we can't just put away the chances. And you just have to look at the stats. I'm not saying Liverpool were great. I've clearly said that there isn't much good I can talk about. And yet there was definitely enough chances in the game for Liverpool to comfortably win the game. And yet here we are talking about 3 points dropped. Simply not good enough. And Liverpool need to move on from this as soon as possible. And finally, the bad. The third thing I've spoken about all season is the attitude. Now, how can you follow up last week's imperious performance against Manchester United with this result? How can you do that? It's like Liverpool are two different teams. And obviously, to do anything successful in sport, like in life, you have to be consistent. But the levels of inconsistency here are quite damning, to be honest with you. Liverpool did this earlier in the season. They had a great performance against Manchester City, and then they followed that up by losing 1-0 away against Nottingham Forest. Also in that game, Virgil van Dijk had at least one clear header. So there are patterns that are being repeated here that are not good. That said, I don't want to take anything away from Bournemouth. They had a game plan today. They weren't able to do their 11-second goal, which is genius if you think about it. And they've done it twice this season as well. So they weren't even able to do something, that's very premeditated and cool to try and breach us today. They just didn't have to try as hard as they should have had to. And yet they were the first to everything. They had the right attitude. We don't have a good attitude going into these games. Now, most of the team that played today has won the lot for Liverpool. It is time for that refresh. We know that. But last week, we were first to the first and second balls, and even third balls. And today, we just meandered around like it was a preseason friendly. I'm very interested to see some of the stats from this because on the base stats that happen in real time, like possession and also shots and corners, we look like we were the dominant team. But I want to see things like distance ran and just certain other statistics that must be damning today, particularly compared to last week. Now, also, we were away. So home under the lights at Anfield is usually a whole different kettle of fish. But it's not good enough. And the last thing I'd want to file under ugly is Diego Jota is struggling. Poor guy. He's come back from a long-term injury into what is a team that isn't either creative and or clinical other than the one-off game, which is usually the big games. And Diogo is not himself at the moment. Can't wait for Luis Diaz to be back because I do think that where Cody Gakpo played today in the number 8, I do think that there are legs in that, particularly if we can stretch teams from the left-hand side with Diaz. The right-hand side is functioning, as I was speaking about earlier in the video. But when you are struggling on one particular side, like the right, you definitely need your better players or a better combination on that left-hand side. And the way Robbo and Cody played last week, you saw that there was a few things that were positive there. Robertson and Diaz don't quite have the understanding that Robertson had with Mane, but obviously that grew from years of playing with each other. But Diaz himself as an individual can be the outlet. He can hold it up. He can take men out of the game. And right now, that's just not part of Jota's game. So yeah, I feel like there's still massive improvements to be made. The one thing about going for a top four race is you definitely don't need to be as clinical as you do when you're battling Manchester City for the title. So there is a bit of respite there. But all things considered, very, very bad day at the office. I can't wait to just move on from this. Obviously, it's a free hit in the Bernabeu on Wednesday, and then we have an anxious 2-week wait during the international break. I wish I was signing off from this with a better video in terms of positivity and a good outlook for the rest of the season. But for us, as always, it's at least one step back, if not two, after taking some positive strides. So that's Liverpool season. That's been the good and bad, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I've been Aizaz. This is the North End. Keep it locked for more content this weekend and across the next few months. Hit that subscribe button, and I'm going to go drown my sorrows. Peace.
This is the North End.